Did you know there's a technique so dark, so brutally effective, that ancient warriors guarded it like a forbidden weapon? This has nothing to do with motivation or morning routines. The samurai used it to face death without flinching. Spartan warriors used it to endure conditions that would break most people in hours. This technique doesn't make discipline easier. It makes you someone for whom discipline is automatic, someone who doesn't negotiate with weakness. But here's the secret. You already have this ability. The difference between you and those ancient warriors isn't genetics or talent, it's psychology. They understood something about the human mind that our comfort-obsessed world has forgotten. They knew that true discipline isn't built through willpower. It's forged through calculated suffering. So why do your attempts at discipline always fail? What did they know that you don't? Subscribe now, because what's next will completely rewire how you think about discipline, forever. Ever feel like you're constantly fighting a losing battle against your own laziness? Modern psychology has a term for facing your fears: exposure therapy. But ancient warriors had a much tougher name for it: forging. They knew a secret we'd forgotten. Every single time you give in to your body's craving for comfort, you're not just taking it easy or actively training yourself to be weak. Think about it. That snooze button isn't just giving you 5 more minutes of sleep. It's sending a powerful message to your subconscious mind. It's telling you that your promises to yourself don't matter, that your goals are optional, that your own word is worthless. You're programming yourself for failure before your feet even hit the floor. The samurai lived by a code we all know: Bushido, honor, loyalty, courage. But beneath these virtues lay a darker, more powerful principle, one that modern discipline gurus are too afraid to talk about. It's too raw, too honest for our comfort-obsessed world. The principle was this: a true warrior must fear his own weakness more than any enemy on the battlefield. His greatest battle wasn't with a sword, it was with himself. To win this internal war, they developed a psychological technique so intense it's almost terrifying. They called it living as if already dead. Imagine that. Waking up every single morning with the absolute, unshakable certainty that this is your last day on earth, not someday in the future. Today this wasn't a depressing thought for them, it was the ultimate liberation. Because if you're already dead, what does a little discomfort matter? Why would you even listen to that weak voice begging you to stay in bed? Why would you negotiate with the part of you that wants to scroll mindlessly for hours, or stuff your face with junk food? A dead man has no time for such trivial concerns. A dead man is free to be disciplined, because he has already surrendered everything. Nothing can be taken from him. This is the point where real discipline stops being about willpower and starts being about a total transformation of your identity. You can just staple a few new habits onto your current self and expect a different life. It doesn't work that way. The person you are right now, with all your comfortable routines, your familiar excuses, your little white lies you tell yourself, that person has to be left behind. That version of you has to go. Buddhist monks also understood this profound truth. They knew that to reach a higher state, you couldn't just add meditation to your daily schedule. You had to let go of the self that was holding you back. This isn't about small improvements. It's about a complete rebirth. It's about deciding who you want to become and then mercilessly shedding the skin of who you used to be. So, the next time you hear that voice whispering for you to take the easy way out, remember the samurai. Ask yourself, what would a person who is already dead do? Would they hit snooze? Would they skip the gym? Would they waste their final hours on things that don't matter? Or would they act with purpose, with intention, with the unstoppable force of someone who has absolutely nothing left to lose? The choice is yours. You can continue to negotiate with your weakness, or you can decide to become someone who doesn't even have that conversation anymore. The path is brutal, but the freedom on the other side is absolute. Thanks for watching. If this resonated with you, subscribe for more. Did you know that certain ancient monks practiced a meditation on death called Maranasati? They would go to graveyards, sit, and observe decaying bodies, contemplating their own inevitable end. Now this wasn't about being morbid, it was strategic. They were training their minds to see through the illusion that comfort matters, that temporary pleasure has real value, or that the opinions of others have any weight. When you truly internalize your own mortality, discipline becomes effortless. You realize you simply don't have time for the luxury of weakness. The Stoic philosophers of ancient Rome had a similar technique called negative visualization. They would imagine losing everything they valued: their wealth, their status, their loved ones, even their own lives. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of Rome, would wake up and remind himself that everyone he would meet that day, including himself, would eventually turn to dust. This wasn't pessimism, it was a source of power. Because when you strip away all attachments to comfort, approval, and pleasure, what's left is pure, unfiltered will, uncontaminated by desire and uncompromised by fear. But there's something even deeper beneath this, something ancient warriors discovered through thousands of years of combat and survival. They learned that discipline isn't really about doing hard things, it's about completely rewiring your relationship with suffering. The untrained mind feels discomfort and immediately sees it as a problem to be solved, an emergency that needs an instant fix. You feel tired, so you rest. You feel hungry, so you eat. You feel bored, so you seek a distraction. Your entire life becomes a simple pattern of stimulus and response, like a lab rat pressing a lever for a reward. The warrior mind, however, operates on a totally different level. It experiences discomfort and sees it as information, as data, as a signal that a transformation is beginning. When a samurai felt fear before a battle, he didn't try to crush it or pretend it wasn't there. He observed it. He studied it. He learned to act despite its presence. Eventually, through repeated exposure, fear became as meaningless as the feeling of clothes on his skin present, but totally irrelevant. This is the dark psychology of discipline that nobody teaches you. The secret isn't to become someone who doesn't feel discomfort. The secret is to become someone for whom discomfort is no longer a reason to stop. Think about the ancient Spartans. They had a ritual that modern society would likely call abuse, but they saw it as essential psychological conditioning. At age 7, boys were taken from their mothers and entered the agoge, a brutal training system designed to forge them into warriors. They were given barely enough food, inadequate clothing, and impossible tasks. They were encouraged to steal food to survive, but if they were caught, they were punished severely not for stealing, but for being incompetent. Do you see the psychology at play? This wasn't about teaching morality. It was about teaching that survival belongs to the disciplined, the cunning, and those who can endure discomfort without complaint. They were creating a generation of men for whom hardship was the default state, for whom comfort was suspicious, and for whom discipline was not just a practice, but their very identity. These warriors didn't need motivation. They didn't need inspiring speeches. They needed nothing external because they had been forged in conditions so harsh that ordinary life felt easy by comparison. This is the principle of hormesis, which ancient warriors understood intuitively. The body and mind grow stronger not through rest but through strategic exposure to stress. A samurai would meditate under a freezing waterfall not because he enjoyed it, but because he understood that every single moment of voluntary discomfort was a deposit into his account of psychological resilience, an account that would pay massive dividends when involuntary suffering inevitably arrived. This is the path to true, unbreakable discipline. Thanks for watching. If this idea resonates with you, consider subscribing for more insights into the warrior mindset. Involuntary suffering always arrives. Life guarantees pain. But the warrior, the disciplined mind, simply chooses their pain. They choose the pain of discipline over the pain of regret. They choose the pain of training over the pain of defeat. They choose the pain of solitude over the pain of living according to others' expectations. This choice, this conscious selection of suffering, is where true power resides. Because when you choose your suffering, you control it. When suffering chooses you, it controls you. Think about it. The undisciplined person isn't someone who avoids pain. That's impossible. The undisciplined person is someone who allows life to decide which pains they will endure. They avoid the pain of waking up early, so they endure the pain of wasted potential. They avoid the pain of difficult conversations, so they endure the pain of simmering resentment. They avoid the pain of physical training, so they endure the pain of poor health. They avoid the pain of discipline, so they endure the pain of being controlled by every impulse, every craving, every fleeting emotion that passes through their mind. The warrior makes a different calculation. They accept that pain is inevitable and choose the pain that builds rather than the pain that destroys. There was a practice among certain Buddhist warrior monks called takahatsu. These monks would walk for hours in the cold, begging for alms, standing in silence whether anyone gave them anything or not, whether they were met with kindness or mockery. This wasn't just about charity. This was about training the ego to endure humiliation, to exist in discomfort without the need to escape or react. Modern psychology calls this distress tolerance. But the monks understood it at a much deeper level. They knew that the ego, the self-image you cling to, is the primary obstacle to discipline. Your ego demands comfort. It demands validation. It demands that the world accommodates its preferences. And true discipline requires you to stop negotiating with this demanding child that lives in your head, the one that wants immediate gratification, that wants to feel good right now, that craves approval and wants life to be easy. The warrior silences this voice, not by suppressing it, but by exposing it, by deliberately placing themselves in situations where this voice screams, and then learning to act anyway. Eventually, that voice grows quiet, not because it's been convinced, but because it has learned that its opinions are completely irrelevant to your actions. Your will becomes stronger than its whining. Miyamoto Musashi, perhaps the greatest samurai who ever lived, spent his final years alone in a cave, writing the Book of Five Rings. After over 60 duels and a lifetime of mastering the sword, he revealed the deepest secret of discipline. He wrote that the way of the warrior is the way of death. This doesn't mean being suicidal. It means that when you are prepared to die at any moment, you are free from all anxiety, all hesitation, all the mental chains that bind ordinary people to mediocrity. This is liberation. When you truly accept that your life will end, that this body will decay, that your accomplishments might be forgotten, you face a profound choice. You can fall into despair, or you can realize that if nothing ultimately matters, then you are free to create your own meaning through your actions. You are free to be disciplined, not because it will save you, nothing will save you, but because discipline is how you forge meaning in a universe that offers none on its own. This is the shift that transforms discipline from a constant struggle into a state of being when you stop trying to motivate yourself and instead restructure your identity around this principle. When you stop seeking comfort and instead seek growth. When you stop running from suffering and instead run toward the suffering that builds you. Discipline stops being something you do. It becomes something you are. It becomes the very fabric of your existence. Thanks for watching. If this resonated with you, consider subscribing for more content on building an unbreakable mindset. See you in the next one. They weren't just disciplined. For the Spartan warriors, hardness wasn't a choice, it was their default state. The warrior monks didn't just meditate on discipline. Their entire existence was a meditation, a constant choosing of the harder path. Not because they loved pain, but because they understood the alternative was spiritual death. A life of comfort that numbs you until you realize you stopped living years ago and just never noticed. And here is where we must pause and go deeper. Because their essay technique the ancient warriors used that modern psychology is only just beginning to understand. They called it different things in different cultures, but the mechanism was the same. It was the practice of voluntary suffering. Not random suffering. Not purposeless pain. But calculated, intentional discomfort, designed to expand your tolerance for adversity. The Stoics would sleep on the floor once a month, eat plain bread, and wear simple clothing, deliberately experiencing poverty to rob it of its power over them. The samurai would fast for days before important decisions, understanding that hunger clarifies the mind, that discomfort burns away the trivial concerns that cloud judgment. Warrior monks would maintain uncomfortable meditation postures for hours. Not because the posture itself mattered, but because teaching the body that its demands are not commands is the foundation of all discipline. Every time you voluntarily endure discomfort, you're sending a signal to your subconscious mind. You are teaching it that you are not a slave to sensation. You're demonstrating that comfort isn't necessary for your survival. That pleasure isn't required for you to function, that you can exist, act, and even thrive in states that would make others quit. This rewiring of your nervous system is the secret technology of unbreakable discipline, because discipline isn't really about what you do, it's about who you become. And you become someone different by repeatedly acting contrary to your current nature. The person who hits the snooze button becomes someone for whom sleep is more important than commitment. The person who wakes up immediately, regardless of how they feel, becomes someone for whom commitment is more important than comfort. Every single action you take is a vote for the type of person you are becoming. The warriors understood this. They understood you can't just think your way into a new identity. You have to act your way into it. You must behave as the person you wish to become, even when, and especially when, every fiber of your being resists. This resistance isn't a sign that you're on the wrong path. This resistance is the old you fighting for its survival, and it must lose. It must be defeated through repetition, through consistency, through the relentless refusal to negotiate with weakness. So now, let me ask you something, and I want you to really think about this. What would your life look like if you were truly disciplined? Not the fake discipline of following a routine for a week, not the superficial discipline of starting a new habit that fades by February, but the unbreakable discipline of the ancient warriors. The discipline that doesn't depend on motivation, that doesn't require inspiration, that exists independent of how you feel. What would your life look like then? Who would you become? And more importantly, what's currently stopping you from becoming that person? Is it your circumstances? That's a lie you tell yourself. The warriors had it far worse. Is it genetics? That's another lie. The body adapts to whatever you demand of it. Is it your past, your trauma, your childhood? The monks who achieved enlightenment often came from backgrounds of suffering that would break most of us today. The only thing stopping you is the story you tell yourself about why discipline is impossible for you. And that story, as comfortable as it may be, is the very cage that keeps you weak. The warriors didn't have better circumstances. They had a better psychology. They had a framework for understanding suffering that allowed them to transform it from an obstacle into a tool. You have that same power, it's time to start using it. Thanks for watching. If this resonated with you, subscribe for more. Have you ever felt a truth land somewhere deep in your mind? A quiet recognition that you've been living by the rules of comfort, not by the demands of your potential? If that sounds familiar, I want you to do something. Leave a comment below and tell me what's the one area of your life where you've been negotiating with weakness. Where have you let your desire for comfort override your commitment to growth? Share it, not for me, but for you. Because the moment you name it, you start to take its power away. Warriors believe that speaking a truth aloud gives you power over it. So, speak your truth. Name your weakness, and in doing so, take the first step toward conquering it. The ancient warriors had another practice that reveals the deepest layer of discipline psychology. It's a Japanese practice called seiza, which involves sitting in a formal kneeling position. After a few minutes, it becomes intensely uncomfortable. Your legs go numb, your knees ache, your back screams, but you don't move, you sit through it. Here's what modern neuroscience is now confirming. When you sit through discomfort without reacting, without fidgeting, without seeking relief, your brain starts to rewire its threat assessment system. The discomfort is still there, but your brain no longer treats it as an emergency. Your amygdala, the part of the brain that handles fear and avoidance, starts to quiet down. Meanwhile, your prefrontal cortex, which controls decision-making and self-control, strengthens its ability to override those initial impulses. You are literally building new neural pathways that let you experience discomfort without being controlled by it. This is why warriors could stay calm in battle while others panicked. It's why they could endure wounds that would incapacitate a normal person. They had trained their nervous systems to interpret pain differently. But it goes even deeper than that. Modern psychology has a term called learned helplessness. It's when an organism, repeatedly exposed to suffering it can't escape, eventually stops trying to escape, even when an escape route becomes available. The warriors knew about this, but they also knew its powerful opposite, learned resilience. When you repeatedly expose yourself to escapable suffering you could end but choose not to. You train your mind that suffering is survivable. You prove to yourself that you are stronger than your circumstances, that discomfort is not dangerous. This is the hidden mechanism behind every effective discipline practice. The cold shower isn't really about getting clean, it's about standing under water your body hates and learning that your body's preferences do not control you. Waking up early isn't just about gaining extra hours, it's about proving to yourself that your commitment is stronger than your desire for more sleep. Fasting isn't primarily about health, it's about experiencing hunger and learning that you won't die, that the sensation of wanting food is just a sensation, and that you can still function, think, and work while your body insists you can't. The samurai called this principle fiducian, the immovable mind. This doesn't mean a mind without thoughts or feelings. It means a mind that is not moved by them. The storm can rage, but the mountain remains still. Your body can scream for rest, for food, for pleasure, for ease, but you do not move, not because you're suppressing these desires, but because you've trained yourself to observe them without obeying them. This is the crucial difference between discipline and willpower. Willpower is a resource that runs out. It's a muscle that gets tired. Discipline, on the other hand, is a state of being. It doesn't require effort because it has become your default setting. The warrior didn't need willpower to wake up before dawn. He just woke up. He didn't need motivation to train. He just trained. This wasn't because he was born special. It was because he had practiced so many thousands of times that discipline had become unconscious, automatic, and inevitable. So I ask you again, what is the one area you're ready to change? Name it, and begin the practice of building your immovable mind. Thank you for watching, and if this message resonated with you, consider subscribing for more. I'm about to share the darkest truth about discipline. It's just the one they never tell you because it reveals too much about how our minds really work. Here it is. You already have this capacity. You are already capable of unbreakable discipline. You prove it every single day in the areas where you've decided that discipline truly matters. Think about it. You never forget to breathe. You never need a motivational speech to pull your hand away from a hot stove. You never struggle with the discipline of eating when you are truly, deeply hungry. Why? Because in these areas, your identity is crystal clear. You don't think of yourself as someone who might breathe. You are someone who breathes. You don't negotiate with fire, you just avoid it. The incredible discipline you're searching for in other parts of your life already exists within you. It's just currently aimed at survival, not at growth. The great secret of the ancient warriors and monks wasn't that they were born different. It was that they learned how to transfer this automatic, non-negotiable discipline from survival behaviors to growth behaviors. They learned to make waking up early as essential as breathing, to make their training as automatic as eating, to make their personal growth as inevitable as aging. How did they do it? This transfer happens through a process the Zen monks called *samu*, which is basically a working meditation. Every single mundane task, sweeping the floor, washing the dishes, folding clothes, was performed with complete attention, complete commitment, and complete discipline. Sweeping wasn't just sweeping. It was training the mind to be fully present, fully committed to something that, on the surface, didn't really matter. The logic is powerful. If you can bring absolute discipline to something seemingly meaningless, you can bring that same discipline to anything. This is why ancient warriors trained in skills that had no direct combat purpose. Things like the tea ceremony, calligraphy, or flower arrangement. These weren't just hobbies, they were disciplined training grounds. They were teaching the mind that the quality of attention you bring to a task is far more important than the task itself. It taught them that discipline is not about the end goal. Discipline is about the process. It's about who you become through that process. You've probably heard the famous Spartan saying, "Come back with your shield or on it." The surface meaning is about bravery in battle, but the deeper meaning is all about identity. A Spartan who came home without his shield had chosen survival over honor. He had chosen comfort over commitment. He had chosen self-preservation over the warrior code. In other words, he had negotiated, and for a Spartan, negotiation was a form of death. Not a physical death, but something worse. The death of his identity. The death of what made him who he was. This is the standard they held themselves to, a non-negotiable identity. You are not someone who tries to be disciplined. You are discipline. You don't work on being consistent. You are consistency. You don't attempt to wake up early. You are simply someone who wakes up early. This isn't just playing with words. This is the fundamental difference between someone who practices discipline and someone who embodies it. And that embodiment comes from only one mechanism: repetition in the face of resistance. It's doing the thing when you least want to do it. It's acting according to your commitment when every cell in your body is screaming for comfort and ease. In Zen Buddhism, there's a popular concept called *Shoshin*, or beginner's mind. It's that state of openness and curiosity that allows you to see things clearly. But there's another less discussed concept, *Gyoshin*, the disciplined mind. This is the mind that has been forged through so much raw repetition that it no longer questions, it simply acts. The beginner's mind is beautiful and open, but it's also weak and easily distracted. The disciplined mind, however, is narrow, focused, and relentless. It's the mind of the master who has repeated the same sword stroke 10,000 times until it is perfect, until it happens without thought, until the body moves before the conscious mind can even interfere. This is the mind you must forge if you want unbreakable discipline. Not through fleeting moments of inspiration, but through relentless repetition. Not through just understanding the theory, but through taking action. And ultimately, not by just wanting it, but by being it. Thanks for watching. If this resonated with you, consider subscribing for more. We've finally reached the ultimate secret, the one ancient warriors guarded most fiercely because it was the most dangerous. Dangerous not to others, but to the comfortable illusions most of us need to get by in everyday life. The secret is this: discipline doesn't lead to freedom. Discipline is freedom. Think about it. The undisciplined person believes they're free because they do whatever they want, whenever they want. But if you watch them closely, you'll see they are slaves. Slaves to every single craving, every impulse, every emotion that sweeps through them. They can't resist checking their phone the second it buzzes. They can't resist hitting the snooze button. They can't say no to that extra slice of cake, or to gossip, or to any form of instant gratification. They are completely controlled by forces they don't even recognize, let alone understand. Now, look at the disciplined person. They might seem constrained, bound by routines and commitments, but they are the ones who are truly free. Free because nothing external controls them. When the alarm clock rings, they get up, no matter how they feel. When hunger strikes, they eat or don't eat based on their goals, not their cravings. When discomfort shows up, they move through it like a knife through water, undisturbed, undeflected, unstoppable. This is the freedom the samurai were willing to die for. Not political freedom, not freedom from oppression, but freedom from the tyranny of their own weakness. Freedom from being controlled by the untrained mind that just seeks pleasure and avoids pain, like any other animal. They understood that a human without discipline isn't really living up to their potential. They're just a sophisticated animal, able to use language and tools, but still governed by the same basic stimulus and response patterns. The disciplined human is something different, something more. They've transcended their basic biology without denying it. They feel hunger, but they aren't controlled by it. They feel fear, but they aren't paralyzed by it. They feel desire, but they aren't enslaved by it. They've become what some might call awakened. Not in a mystical way, but in the simple, powerful recognition that you are not your feelings. You are the awareness that observes those feelings. And from that place of awareness, you can choose. You don't just react, you choose. This is the stuff they don't teach you in modern psychology courses. This is what the self-help industry doesn't want you to know. Because if you truly understood this, you wouldn't need their next book, their next seminar, their next miracle cure. The ancient warriors solved the discipline problem thousands of years ago. They discovered that real discipline isn't built through comfort. It's built through calculated, intentional discomfort. It's not about motivation. It's about tearing down your old identity and building a new one. It's not about willpower. It's about completely rewiring your nervous system's relationship with difficulty. They found that you don't need more reasons to be disciplined. You just need to have fewer negotiations with your own weakness. You don't need better circumstances to start. You need a better internal operating system. You need to stop seeing discipline as something you do and start seeing it as something you are. Thanks for watching. Let me tell you what happens if you apply this knowledge. If you truly internalize these principles and begin to live them, not perfectly, but consistently, your life will divide into a before and an after. Before, you were someone who tried. After, you were someone who does. Before, you needed motivation. After, you simply act. Before, you negotiated with every uncomfortable moment. After, discomfort becomes irrelevant. The people around you will not understand the change. They will say you have become cold, detached, obsessed, and they are right. You have become cold to the opinions that used to control you, detached from the emotions that used to paralyze you. I'm obsessed with becoming the person you are always capable of being. This will disturb them because your transformation holds up a mirror to their stagnation. Your discipline will make their comfort feel like the cage it always was. They will try to pull you back, not out of malice, but out of fear. Fear that if you can change, then they have no excuse. Fear that your success condemns their mediocrity. You must be prepared for this. The path of discipline is often walked alone. The ancient warriors knew this. They trained alone. They meditated alone. They faced death alone. Because true transformation cannot happen in the crowd. The crowd will always pull you toward the average, toward the comfortable, toward the acceptable. And acceptable is where discipline goes to die. If you recognize yourself in these words, if something in you knows that you are meant for more than the comfortable life of quiet desperation that modern society offers, if you feel the call to become something harder, something stronger, something unbreakable, then do not let this moment pass. This channel exists to guide those who are ready to walk that path of transformation through discipline. Subscribe now, not for more content, but because you are ready to commit to becoming who you are meant to be. Our next video goes even deeper into the warrior psychology, but it is only for those who have proven they're serious. Prove it by subscribing. This knowledge doesn't reveal itself to the curious, it reveals itself to the committed. You now know what they knew. You know that discipline is not about trying harder. It is about becoming someone for whom trying is unnecessary because action is automatic. You know that suffering is not the obstacle to discipline, it is the mechanism. You know that comfort is not your friend, it is the enemy that keeps you weak. You know that your body will lie to you, that your emotions will betray you, that your mind will negotiate. And you know that none of this matters because you are not your body, you are not your emotions, you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness that can observe all of these and choose to act according to your commitment rather than your comfort. This knowledge is ancient, it is powerful, and it is yours now. The only question is what you will do with it. Will you return to the comfortable illusions that most people call life? Or will you step onto the path that the warriors walked, the path of unbreakable discipline, of voluntary suffering, of becoming something that the weak cannot understand and the comfortable cannot accept? The choice, as always, is yours. But choose quickly, because every moment you delay is another moment of weakness, voting for who you will become, and the warrior does not have time for delay. The warrior acts now, always now, forever now, until discipline is not something they practice, but something they are, until they are the unmoved mountain, the unbroken sword, the discipline that does not bend, does not break, does not negotiate. This is the psychology behind unbreakable discipline. This is the path. Thanks for watching.